museum. We're going on a guided tour. Wow.
You're going to learn that there are 18 missile silos here in Arizona. These are the insignias for the 3 squadrons that would take care of the missile silos. This squadron would take care of the 9 silos in the south, and that would include this one. Their first phone call is there at the gate. They'll call the commander that's on duty, who will check in with them and open the gate. As they begin their way down the access portal, there's a door and a second telephone. That's where they make their second telephone call to the crew on duty. They'll enter the doorway and there's a third telephone on the other side of the door. They'll make their third phone call from that phone, and at that point, they're going to read a written code that they received from base before coming here. That code is going to match a code that the crew on duty inside the control center also has. When they've matched their codes, they can proceed. So if you'd be so kind, precede me all the way down the stairs and we'll meet there. By themselves. That's why they make their 4th phone call to the crew inside. I'm told it's the lowest ranking crew member that would then pull the door open. Number 1. Oh boy, okay, how heavy do you think this door is? It's 6,000 pounds, that's 3 tons. The thing about that is the floor is not attached to the walls. Everything is suspended by the giant springs you see surrounding the room. There's 8 of them. So even your cup of coffee is not going to shake in the event that there's Armageddon. Our 3 levels consist of a crew quarters that's up on the top. That's where the crew would go during their shift for breaks, for meals. They're even allowed to sleep for up to 4 hours, although I'm told by crew members who worked here they did not get any sleep when they were actually on duty. This area, this is our control center. So here, one person has to be an officer at all times. In the maintenance level, there's a generator, there's additional electrical equipment, there's plumbing, there's other things needed to run the facility, and there's a 30-day supply of emergency food and water. We've got a 4-person crew, as I mentioned. Our 2 officers are here. You are our commander. You're in charge of everything. You're our deputy commander. One of your jobs is to take care of communications. You see the panels behind you there. Our 2 other crew members are enlisted personnel. One is our ballistic missile analyst technician. That person's going to use all these panels here to control the electronics on the missile itself, including they're going to keep track of the guidance system. Since I've mentioned guidance system, let me talk to you for just a moment about our targets. You'll see here we've got target 1, target 2, and target 3 listed. Any idea what those targets are?
Russia.
Somewhere, yeah. Somewhere in what was then the Soviet Union, because we're talking about 60s and 90s. Our crew also isn't going to know what those targets are. And there's 2 reasons for that. One is security. You don't want that information getting out, either by intention or by accident. The other is psychological. If you know what that target is, you might hesitate when you're told it's time to do your launch. They don't want anybody to hesitate. Now, what are the conditions needed in order for us to do a launch? We have to be under attack, right? This is a retaliatory, not a preemptive strike. So that means if we're called to act, there's already missiles in the air coming our way. That gives us only about a half an hour, not a lot of time. Now, who's the person who makes the decision? It is the moment. Well, commander's here, but remember, we've got an entire nuclear triad, land, sea, and air. We've got 54 silos for Titan II alone, and that's just one component. It's the President of the United States. That's what that whole nuclear football is all about. Now, the President doesn't act alone. President's getting information from NORAD confirming there are indeed missiles in the air. It's a complicated process. But the President, when it's time to make the choice, would then send codes to the Pentagon. The Pentagon would send coded information to Strategic Air Command in Omaha, Nebraska. And it's Strategic Air Command in Nebraska that would send out the emergency action message that would be the call to arms for everybody to be ready to mobilize. That would be received here, and it would sound like this. To the red emergency war order safe that's there. You see there are 2 locks on that safe. Each of you has your own lock. In fact, you brought that with you when you came on to your shift. Only you know your combination. So you pick out the one that has the letters that match the beginning of the message, and then when you find the right one, you open it up, and inside there's additional coded information. That additional coded information matches the second part of your message. You're going to then look again at your action message, and the next thing you're going to learn is what time to do the launch. Now remember, I said this is a coordinated action, not just us. You're our deputy, you're our timekeeper, you're going to use this clock here. This is our launch clock. Not lunch clock, launch clock. This launch clock is going to tell you what time according to your message. There's one more bit of information in your coded message that you need before you can launch, and that's the code for this butterfly valve lock control here. There's 6 thumbnails here. Our commander is going to read off the code, and our missile analyst technician is going to input the code right here. You also can't tamper with this, because if you do, there is an explosive charge inside that will detonate. If you start fiddling around with this, it'll melt everything down, and you won't be able to do your launch. You've got your keys out of your safe. Your key gets inserted here. Your key is inserted in the side of your console here. Again, this is a 2-person operation. One of you can't turn both keys, but they have to be turned simultaneously in order to do the launch. Once you've turned those keys, the computer takes over. There's nothing you can do to stop the launch. That's the next thing that's going to happen is 9,000 gallons of water are going to pour into the bottom of the silo. Now, why is that? This is, again, gets back to the technology. Remember I mentioned this missile is going to take off from inside the silo itself. It takes off with the force of 2 747s at full throttle. When it does that, it creates sound waves, and those sound waves in the confine of the silo would shake the missile apart. Except for, rocket science says we have a solution for that. The water at the bottom of the silo turns to steam as soon as the engines fire up. And the action of producing steam actually dampens the sound. The next thing that's going to happen is our silo cover has to open. Remember, I pointed to it on our way down. It's big. It weighs 752 tons. But it flies open in a mere 19 seconds on rails. Once that's done, our guidance system is going to communicate one last time here with the missile before it's independent. Our fuel and oxidizer come together, and we have liftoff. All that happens in 58 seconds. Way faster than it took to explain it. missiles are designed to leave the atmosphere means they were useful for the space program as well as for military service. We use them in the Gemini missions. In fact, Neil Armstrong rode in one. We also used 2 for the Viking missions to Mars, and 1 was used for the Voyager mission, which is still sending data back to us from outside the solar system. Is halfway open. It's got 2 blocks behind it. You'll also notice that the re-entry vehicle has a hole cut in it. The reason for the blocks are to keep that cover from opening the whole way. The reason from the hole is to demonstrate to any spy plane or satellite that's flying over that there's no way there's a ordnance on board or that this silo cover can be fully opened, and that means no launch would ever happen here. Look me.